Hello, good day everyone. Let us start off this video with me introducing myself. My name is Zel Bellatrix de Buco Herrera from BSN1E, and I am here to showcase my methods on how to use the SPSS statistical tool to determining the relationship between the number of hours studied by students who take the course GEC 104 and their final midterm grade last month. Now, without further ado, let us start the video. Before showcasing how I use the statistical tool, let us first determine or find out the problem presented to us by our teacher. We are tasked to gather data on the number of hours spent studying each day and the midterm grade they managed to obtain in GEC 104. And we are tasked to find of at least 30 respondents or 30 students who are currently enrolled in this course. We are also tasked to find any apparent relationship between the two variables. Here is an overview of my data gathering procedure for research cannot succeed without actual data. My respondents are from BSN1 students who are now currently enrolled in Colegio San Agustin Bacolod that took the course of GEC 104 last midterm. Majority of my respondents are from BSN1E, and some are found on the other sections in order to achieve the target respondents of 30. All in all, I managed to gather a total of 31 respondents who were willing to participate in my research. As a proof, here is a picture of a total number of respondents in Google Forms. And here is a table to which showcase the data I gathered, with 99 as the highest grade garnered by a student and 84 as the lowest. The data I needed are the midterm grade obtained by my respondents and the total number of hours they consume every day studying the course GEC 104. I only gathered the average time they take per week by adding the hours they manage to study every day and dividing it by the total number of days they consume to study this particular course. And the answer to that equation will be the average time they spend on this subject alone. The medium for my data gathering procedure is of course the Google Forms. And I utilize Messenger to message my respondents one by one, assuring them of the safety of their data. Here is a photo of the form that I used in asking my respondents of their Gmail, the number of hours, and their midterm grade. After I gathered all the necessary data, I now transfer it on a table for easy access in solving for their relationship. After data gathering, I now commence using the SPSS statistical tool. The data analysis tool that I use is the SPSS statistical analysis tool, by also utilizing the Pearson product moment correlation, for it is a significant formula to find the relationship between the midterm grade and the number of hours studied. Now, without further ado, let me show you on how I used the SPSS statistical tool.
We now open our SPSS statistical tool, and as you can see, there is still no data in our SPSS. So first thing we need to do is to click on view and then click on variables. We use this view for we needed to encode both the variables that we needed, specifically the number of hours studied by the students and their final midterm grade. We also have to keep in mind that if we are writing the variables, we do not use the space bar or the space, we use the underscore to avoid errors in encoding the variables. I also utilize a numerical type of variables, for my data is quantitative and heavily relies on numbers. I also set my decimals into two places to accurately solve for the data. And as my preference, I aligned it at the center so that it will be looking neat. I then set the measures to scale as time is involved in an interval scale, and also we are dealing with a numerical type of data. Now let us click on View again and then Data. Then we can adjust the number of hours and the midterm grades, and then we can now proceed to encode our data. Here we are finished encoding our data, and now let us proceed to analyze and solve using the Pearson formula. First, we click on Analyze, then we click on Correlate, and then the Bivariate. Next, the Bivariate Correlations window will now appear, and then we will transfer our two variables to the variables by clicking on this arrow. Next, we have to make sure that the Pearson is checked and to make sure that the test of significance is two-tailed. If you wanted to find the mean and the standard deviation of your variables, we click on Options and then tick the box of the means and standard deviations. Now, I just want to see the means and standard deviations on my own, but you can choose to not click it if you only want to see the correlation result. We now then click Continue, and then we will press OK to solve the two datas. And here's now the result of the Pearson correlation formula. According to my data, the mean of my number of hours is 2.4, and the mean for my midterm grade is 92.5. Next, we can now determine that the Pearson correlation for both midterm grade and number of hours is negative 0.041, and the significant level is 0.827, with 31 number of respondents.
This is entirely optional, but we can choose to do so. We encode all our data into Excel to check the R of the Pearson correlation formula.
We then select the Data tab and then the Data Analysis, and then click on Correlation. We then input all our necessary data into the input range, including the labels on top. We now have to check the labels in first row to make sure it does not hinder our calculations. We then select any Excel tab for our output range so that it can show our result. The results clearly show that the R of our SPSS is correct. For the R solved by the Excel is also negative 0.041 if round up to the nearest hundredths.
On to the final question on how do we interpret the results. We use these data tables to show or to be our guide to show the relationship between our two variables, to determine if it has a strong or negative relationship and whether they have a significant relationship or not, by comparing our significant level that we solve in our SPSS to the margin of error of 0.05. Here are the interpretation of my data. Here are the interpretations of my data. Number 1. Since the significance level is 0.827, which means it is greater than 0.05, there is no significant relationship between the variables of the study. Number 2. Based on the table, there was no or negligible relationship having an R equals to negative 0.04. And finally, for my reporting output, a Pearson product moment correlation was utilized to determine the relationship between the number of hours studied by students for midterm exam in GEC 104 and their midterm grade. It resulted to possess no or negligible relationship between the two variables, which were not statistically significant, having an R equals to negative 0.04, a number of respondents equal to 31, and a significant level equals to 0.83. This is all from me, and this is my performance task in GEC 104. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something.